She wrote, "Help," on a napkin. What the man at table 12 revealed was incredibly transformative. Claire's hands trembled as she wiped down the sticky table. The fluorescent lights above hummed incessantly, mirroring the monotony of her life. Just another night at Sally's diner, slinging fries and refilling coffee for customers who barely glanced her way. She picked up a crumpled napkin and unfurled it, the scrawl of a single word jolting her. Help. What could possibly be so dire that someone would write a cry for help on a diner napkin? Curiosity gnawed at her as she swept her eyes across the room and landed on table 12, where an elderly man sat sipping from a chipped mug. The way he clutched the cup reminded her of her dreams, fragile, yet perilously close to shattering. With a hint of trepidation, Claire approached him. As she got closer, the man's face lit up with a flicker of nostalgia, his thin frame wrapped in layers of worn-out sweaters. "Mr. Thompson," he introduced himself, and as the conversation flowed, he shared stories of his former life, filled with artistic accolades and unfulfilled ambitions. Claire felt a spark ignite within her as he reminisced about beauty and suffering intertwined in creation. They were kindred spirits, trapped in lives that didn't respect their passions. Afternoon sunlight filtered through the window, highlighting the pain that clenched at her heart. But in the back of her mind, doubt loomed. How could someone like her, a waitress burdened with bills, a teen daughter's needs, and an unsupportive boss, ever take a step toward her dream? She noted the way Mr. Thompson seemed to see her for more than just an apron-clad waitress. Through every word, she felt the tapestry of her own dreams unraveling bit by bit, revealing threads of her potential that had long been suffocated by the demands of everyday life. At that moment, a wave of dread washed over Claire. Her instinct screamed that she was only one scandal away from losing the little security she had. The gruff manager, a man who thrived on exploiting vulnerability, had no qualms about exploiting her obsequious nature. As she poured a fresh cup of coffee for another customer, Claire glanced sidelong at her boss, a sinister shadow looming over her every decision. If she dared to dream or stand for something, what would happen to Lily? What would happen if she risked everything she built? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The stakes climbed higher as Mr. Thompson revealed a local gallery was hosting an exhibition. "You have a story to tell, Claire," he encouraged, his voice a quiet storm of conviction stirring within her. But the fear clamped tighter around her chest. Could she afford to take the leap toward the gallery, risking her job, her stability for Lily? That prized opportunity shimmered like a mirage, teasing her heart with vivid dreams of paintings that spoke truths long buried under layers of grease and struggle. The clock ticked steadily behind the counter as Claire's thoughts swirled. Should she remain an unseen artist, wishing for a spark of vindication? Or could she gather the courage to expose her boss's callous methods, even if it meant leaving her job vacant? Anguish crushed her, boiling against the frail threads of hope Mr. Thompson sparked within her. Little did she know, reality was bracing for the day she would be forced to choose. The unjust world would no longer remain dormant, and her destiny waited like an unresolved canvas, begging her to paint it with bold strokes and resonant colors. The air in Sally's diner felt heavier that evening, pressing against Claire as she wiped the same table for the third time. She could still hear Mr. Thompson's words resounding in her mind. They acted like a metronome, keeping time with her pulsing anxiety. He had seen something in her that she struggled to recognize within herself. As she observed the flickering lights overhead, the vibrant colors of possibility began to blend into the drabness of her reality. Every customer who entered the diner was another reminder of her stagnant existence, each familiar face dulling her hopes until they diminished into nothing more than a daily routine. The laughter and chatter seemed to mock her dreams, as if they were confirmed to remain forever out of reach. Yet, there was Mr. Thompson, wrapping hope around Claire like a blanket, urging her to nurture her artistic spark. While she continued to wrestle with fear, the image of an empty canvas filled her mind, not just in a literal sense but also as a metaphor for the life she longed to create. Claire turned her focus back to the task at hand, serving dishes and mixing up drinks with mechanical precision. The clatter of plates served as a jarring soundtrack to the tempest of thoughts swirling inside her. Did she dare take a stand against her boss, who seemed intent on suppressing any flicker of ambition she showed? Every shift, every dismissal from customers, reinforced the narrative she'd been fed that she was nothing more than a cog in a machine. But as she watched Mr. Thompson raise his cup, a hint of determination ignited within her. She didn't want to plummet into despair. Instead, she craved the primal thrill of creation. With every meal she served, every laugh she heard, Claire could almost taste the vibrant colors of her aspirations. The disapproving stares of her manager felt less imposing against this newfound sense of self. Maybe this was her moment to confront her fear. Later that night, after the dinner rush, as she wiped down tables alone, Claire's mind raced. The thought of the gallery exhibition pulled at her, an anchor threatening to ground her in possibility. But could she really pour the remnants of her weary soul into her art? What if the world turned its back on her work, just as it had on her as a person? While she scrubbed away grease, part of her felt the urge to cleanse more than just the tables. This struggle was maintenance for her spirit as well. She had to confront her boss's dark influence, the way he manipulated her fear into submission. Maybe she could protect her aspirations from the same fate. With a start, an idea honed down to a singular focus began to take shape. What if she gathered the courage to talk to Mr. Thompson again, to seek his advice on how she could fight back against the odds? The seconds stretched into minutes, and silence enveloped the diner, interrupted only by the faint hum of the refrigerator and her own quickening breath. The decision loomed like a mountain before her, a challenge to climb. Claire knew that whatever path she chose would define her. She made her way to the staff room where she could prepare her thoughts. As Claire stepped into the small back room, the door creaked ominously, symbolizing the threshold between her mundane existence and the fierce unknown. She was teetering on a precipice, and her heart raced with both fear and exhilaration. She could either let her dreams suffocate in the shadows of her boss's neglect, or face the confrontation that would determine her fate. The weight of her choices pressed upon her, tightening its grip. What would she say? Would she muster the courage to not just express her hopes, but also demand the respect she deserved? With trembling hands, she opened her notebook, the pages filled with sketches and visions unsaid. The time had come to gather her thoughts, laying the groundwork for a battle that was more than just against a man. It was about reclaiming herself. As she began to write, the door swung open, revealing Mr. Thompson standing in the hallway, concern etched on his weathered face. "Claire," he said softly, and suddenly, everything inside her trembled at the possibility of what this could mean. What had he come to reveal, and could it propel her onto the path of her own transformation? Claire's gaze locked onto Mr. Thompson, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. The flickering fluorescent lights above cast wavering shadows, mirroring the tumult within her. She felt exposed, vulnerable as she hovered on the edge of this encounter. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. He stepped into the cramped staff room, his presence a steadying anchor amid her cascading insecurities. "Of course," he replied, his brows knitting together in concern. "I could tell something was on your mind tonight. You've been restless, Claire, more than usual." Restless? It was an understatement. Her heart raced now, pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. Here was the moment she had been contemplating, a chance to break free from the darker shadows her job had cast over her life and creative aspirations. I wanted to talk about my art," she said, scraping together the remnants of her courage. "I've been thinking about the exhibition you mentioned." Mr. Thompson nodded, his gaze encouraging. "It's a great opportunity. You have talent, Claire, raw and untapped, just waiting for a moment to shine." His words ignited a flicker of hope within her. "What if I fail?" The question slipped out before she could rein it in, the fear laced through her voice betraying her. "No one succeeds without fear of failure. It's part of the process," he replied. "What's important is that you fight against that fear, create despite it." As he spoke, Claire felt an anvil lift off her heart. The way he looked at her, as if he truly believed in her potential, made her long to trust his faith. She thought of the sketches tucked away in her notebook, the fragments of her imagination waiting, yearning for the world to see them. "What if I don't know how?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Mr. Thompson leaned back against the wall, crossing his arms contemplatively. "Start small. Find your voice and let it speak. We all have different ways of expressing ourselves, some through bold strokes, others more subtle. You have to figure out what feels right for you. Trying to process his advice, Claire lifted her notebook, clutching it tightly to her chest as if it housed all her dreams. But what if my voice isn't enough? She posed, wrestling with the familiar dark thoughts swirling around her mind. You'll never find out if you don't try. You know, I've been in this industry long enough to see many bright talents fade away because they let their fears silence them. Don't be one of them. With that, Mr. Thompson reached forward, resting a supportive hand on her shoulder. The warmth of his touch sparked a new resolve within Claire. Perhaps he was right. Her art deserved to be unleashed, regardless of the fear that gripped her. Summoning a newfound determination, Claire took a deep breath. Will you help me prepare for the exhibition? A smile broke across his face, lighting up his tired features. Absolutely. Let's work together, Claire. I can guide you through the process, but you must take the steps. You need to trust yourself. Something shifted inside her, a blend of fear and excitement. The weight that had previously pressed her down had now transformed into a powerful energy, urging her to embrace the challenge ahead. Where once she saw herself as merely a waitress, she now felt the stirrings of a creator. As they discussed the logistics of the upcoming exhibition, Claire's mind raced with ideas. She could visualize her pieces displayed under soft gallery lights, inviting viewers into her world. The exhilaration coursing through her veins overshadowed any lingering doubt. But as the conversation deepened, a whisper of trepidation gnawed at her. The risks ahead loomed large. Confronting her boss again and risking his disapproval could be another trial. What if he tried to undermine her effort? Would she have the strength to stand her ground? Claire, Mr. Thompson's voice snapped her from her reverie. You'll need to prepare yourself for criticism. Not everyone will appreciate what you create. But remember, criticism can help you grow. She bit her lip, the stakes suddenly clearer. Stepping into the light came with its own burdens, including the possibility of rejection. The thought sent a shiver through her, yet there was no turning back now. As their discussion continued, Claire felt a shift within her, a burgeoning ambition, fueled by the thought of change. She could no longer remain hidden in the comfortable shadows. Transformation was on the horizon, if only she could muster the courage to embrace it fully. The laughter from the diner beyond echoed like a distant memory as she took a step toward a future fraught with uncertainty. The moment of commitment was approaching, the point at which she would decide to leap into the unknown. Could she confront the obstacles ahead and hold fast to her evolving identity? Or would she crumble under the weight of fears unspoken? This chapter of her life was unfolding, yet the climax awaited just a heartbeat away. Claire jolted back to reality as the diner atmosphere rushed in like a wave, drowning out the quiet determination that had just settled within her. She was still in the staff room, the remnants of her conversation with Mr. Thompson echoing in her mind. But a new noise pulled her attention. It was the unmistakable clang of dishes and raucous laughter from the customers beyond the door. Stepping back into the bustling diner felt like a plunge into cold water. She glanced around, almost startled by how mundane everything appeared. The waitresses flew around like hummingbirds, taking orders, refilling coffee cups, and exchanging tired jokes, while patrons settled into their booths. Her heart raced, the certainty of her purpose now mingling with uncertainty, creating a dissonant symphony of emotions. Returning to her station, Claire's eyes landed on the familiar faces, the regulars she'd served for what felt like ages. She had grown accustomed to their small talk and everyday routines. Yet, as she poured coffee into a well-worn mug for table 3, a notion flared within her. These conversations, mundane as they were, would soon change. She would be more than just a waitress. She was an artist, preparing for her debut. As she moved from table to table, the weight of her newly ignited ambition sparked a sense of discomfort. Would they understand her if she announced her dreams? Would they laugh at her like echoes of her own insecurities, long cloaked in self-doubt? Claire took a deep breath and forced a smile for the couple at table 8, a soft-spoken couple who always commented on her choice of colors in her nail polish. Their light-hearted banter felt different today. The question of authenticity gnawed at her, daring her to reveal more than simply her surface. "Hey, did you ever figure out what you want to do with that art you love?" The woman, Jessica, always asked just the right questions. For a fleeting moment, Claire hesitated, considering falling back into the familiar rhythm of evasion. But the vision of her art under gallery lights flitted through her mind, tethering her to the moment. "I'm actually preparing for an exhibition," Claire blurted out, the words escaping like steam from a pot. Jessica's eyes widened in genuine excitement. "That's amazing, Claire. You've got to show me some of your work." Claire's heart danced with an unexpected thrill. Was she really going to share her sketches, her thoughts laid bare? "Sure, I'll show you when I have something ready," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. The gentle encouragement from Table 8 reinforced her resolve. Mr. Thompson's words echoed within her, propelling her forward as she weaved between tables. The more she acknowledged her aspirations aloud, the more solid they seemed to become, shaking the dust off her creative ambitions that had lain dormant for too long. Yet just as confidence began to swell, she spotted her boss, Steve, seated at table 12, flipping through paperwork and scrutinizing the diner's receipts. His presence expanded the tension in the room. He wasn't known for supporting side projects. He saw waitressing as a full-time commitment, and nothing else held priority. Wiping her hands on her apron, Claire hesitated. Could she really confront him? Was it worth the potential fallout? She paced back and forth, a torrent of what-ifs igniting her insecurities, eroding the hard-won courage she'd gathered just moments ago. Calming her breath, Claire resolved to confront the uncertainty head-on. She approached the table tentatively, noting Steve's furrowed brow as his eyes skimmed over the paperwork. "Steve, got a moment to talk?" The request tumbled out, surprising her with its firmness. He glanced up, sharp eyes assessing her, the papers resting on the table momentarily forgotten. "What's up?" This was it, the moment she had feared but now yearned for. "I want to discuss my schedule, and I'd also like to talk about pursuing my art on the side." The abruptness rattled her. The uncertainty of Steve's reaction loomed large. Slowly she felt the familiar doubts creep back in, poisoning her resolve. Would he cut her down? Just then, the air in the diner shifted as the man from table 12 raised his hand, drawing her attention. He wore a look of curiosity mingled with something deeper, perhaps empathy. Claire's heart raced. Was this stranger about to transform her fears into a springboard? But only time would tell how this confrontation would play out. She held her ground, ready to face the challenges ahead and reclaim her narrative from the shadows. With the uncertainty now palpable, one question loomed within her mind. Would she rise to the occasion, or retreat back into herself? The intensity in the air thickened as Claire stood at the edge of uncertainty, eyes darting between Steve and the man from table 12, whose expression shifted from casual interest to focused attentiveness. Every passing second felt like a heartbeat drumming against her resolve. The realization that she was no longer just Claire the waitress, but rather Claire the artist with aspirations added to her tension. "Pursuing your art?" Steve's tone was clipped, underlined with caution. Claire braced herself, bracing for resistance, as years of expectations passed between them unspoken. "We've spoken about this before. My staff needs to commit fully." A wave of instinctively crafted excuses threatened to spill from her lips, but the words evaporated at the reminder of her burgeoning dreams. Her fingers clenched the edge of the table, grounding her amid the surge of doubt. "I know the diner comes first, but I'm ready to make this work. It's important to me." His brows knitted tightly, as if gauging the seriousness of her words. The weight of his scrutiny was palpable, amplifying her self-doubt like an unseen hand clutching her throat. Yet, beyond his skepticism was the profound desire to prove her worth, not only in his eyes but in her own. Suddenly the man at table 12 rose, his heartbeat now synchronizing with Claire's. "Excuse me," he interjected methodically, his voice neither commanding nor imploring, but steady enough to create a rift in the brewing tension. "I couldn't help but overhear." Claire felt her cheeks flush, half gratitude and half embarrassment as a mix of hope and dread curled within her. What would he say? Would his words uplift or relegate? "I'm an artist too," he stated, calmly meeting Steve's skepticism with a steady gaze. "I understand the worry of juggling jobs and passion, but in my experience, pursuing your art can enhance your livelihood, not detract from it." Steve's expression shifted slightly, as if the acknowledgement reverberated beyond his standard protocol. It was a crack in the dam of rigidity. Claire seized the moment. "Exactly. I want to bring my experiences here, in this diner, into my art. It'll be more vibrant, more relatable." The man nodded in agreement, adding, "I believe that a real lived experience adds richness to art that cannot be fabricated. We aren't just servers, we hold stories that resonate." His words caressed Claire's imagination, igniting flickers of a future she could create. Steve, still visibly cautious, leaned back, his posture loosening just a fraction. "What if things don't go as planned?" he questioned, probing deeply. "What if you divide your focus?" "Then I'll learn," Claire answered without hesitation, the clarity of her voice cutting through the air. "Maybe I'll even fail, but it's my failure to own." Vulnerability dripped from her words, yet lidded it from becoming a burden. There it was, the moment of truth. Claire confronted both the external obstacle and the internal labyrinth of fears. The man at table 12 flashed a small, encouraging smile, a spark of camaraderie igniting between fellow dreamers in the unlikeliest of places. "I just need your support to explore this side of me," Claire added, her courage swelling like the tide. "And if it means rearranging my schedule or managing responsibilities differently, I'll do it." Silence enveloped the table, and the din of the restaurant faded to a murmur as Steve contemplated her earnest request. Claire's heart hammered, the uncertainty branching into anticipation as she waited for his response with bated breath. She was unveiling parts of herself that had long gathered dust. The energy in the room shifted, and she couldn't tell if it was with favor or resistance. Just then, the man from table 12 dropped a casual line into the conversation. "Sometimes it takes confronting your own fears to uncover something incredible. What are you afraid of losing?" That simple question hung in the air, teasing out deeper reflections within Claire. In that moment, clarity washed over her. What was she truly afraid of? She had stepped into a brave new world, yet the haunting ghosts of her past echoed across the threshold. As she waited for Steve's verdict, Claire felt the transformative weight of the moment settling around her, a moment poised delicately on the precipice of risk and reward. Would this be the turning point leading to authenticity in both her work and spirit? Claire held her breath, knowing that the answer could lead her to either the embrace of possibility or the confines of fear. Would she reclaim the narrative she crafted for herself, or allow someone else to define it? Steve's silence grew longer, the weight of his contemplation pressing against Claire's chest. He shifted slightly, opening the conversation to the room's energy, which pulsed with unspoken potential. Claire's heart quickened. Could this be the moment she'd anticipated? She could hardly breathe. Anxiety tightened around her like a noose, yet she held her ground. Steve finally broke his silence. "You want to explore, to experiment with what you bring to your art, and now you want my support." He locked eyes with her, and for a fleeting second, Claire emerged from her internal turmoil, seeing herself through his gaze. "But what do you know about commitment?" His inquiry pierced her confident facade. Caught off guard, doubts swirled in her mind. Commitment had always been a bedrock of her upbringing, yet it felt heavy now, restrictive even. What did it mean to balance her duties at the diner with her creative pursuits? I know commitment," Claire stammered, finding her voice. "It's about showing up every day prepared to give your best. It's not just about physical presence, it's about being fully engaged." "That's true," Steve nodded slowly, "but your art needs your emotional energy too. Have you considered that?" And there it was, the heart of her struggle. The reality of redirecting emotional investment into her art alongside her work presented a daunting challenge. Claire swallowed hard, grappling with the gravity of that truth. Could she commit to both her responsibilities at the diner and her passion? The man from table 12, who had been silently observing, leaned closer, intrigued by the exchange. "What if there's a way to weave your experiences at the diner into your artistic expression? Draw from the people, the emotions, the stories around you," he chimed in, his voice steady and inviting. With each word, a spark of enthusiasm ignited in Claire's core. The realization that she didn't have to compartmentalize her life any longer was a potent revelation. "I could document the stories I hear from customers, the interactions that unfold," she hypothesized, each idea sparking new connections in her mind. The fleeting moments of laughter, sadness, and genuine human connection, they could fuel my work. Steve leaned back slightly in his chair, assessing her with a new depth of understanding. "You're saying you'd explore how working here influences your art while maintaining your commitment to the diner?" "Exactly," Claire responded, her words pouring out as a cascade of newfound clarity. "It doesn't have to be one or the other. I can use my observations, my experiences, my life as fuel for both jobs, both passions." For the first time, Claire felt like she was stepping into a version of herself she had long kept at bay. No longer the conflict-ridden waitress or the frustrated artist, but someone whose everyday environment could blend creativity and commitment into a single narrative. Yet she sensed that something deeper lay beneath her emerging confidence. Was she prepared to fully expose her vulnerabilities and take ownership of a life that embraced ambiguity? A longer silence enveloped the group, layered with potential realization. Claire shifted in her chair, the air thickening again with anticipation. She knew the challenge ahead, It wouldn't be easy making this new version of herself. Embracing the fear of vulnerability would be the truest test. The thrill of creativity mixed with trepidation crashed through her like waves against a rocky shore. "Claire," Steve finally said, breaking the spell of introspection. "I appreciate your passion, but let's be clear, this isn't going to be easy. If we're moving forward, I need to see that level of commitment translate into consistent performance here." A twinge of concern rippled through Claire. Was she truly ready for the distraction on the horizon, the possibility of failure that came with attempting to balance two demanding worlds? The way forward felt both frightening and exhilarating. "Of course," she replied, infusing her voice with newfound determination. "But I want you to know, I won't shy away from this. If it means that I may face setbacks or challenges, then I'm prepared to embrace them. This time, I intend to show up fully, at work, and for my art." At those words, a sense of liberation coursed through her veins. She felt the boundaries of her fears softening, yet she couldn't ignore the lingering question. Would her creative journey reveal facets of herself she hadn't yet explored? Would she, unlike so many others, become willing to reap the rewards that came with facing her fears? One thought consumed her. She had to find out. As she met Steve's gaze, a new understanding simmered between them. The path ahead was uncharted territory, and she needed to navigate it with patience and persistence. Would she step into this journey, armed with courage and the lessons from her past? Or would she once again succumb to hesitation? An endless array of possibilities stretched before her, a tantalizing thread weaving an artist's narrative from the stories she lived each day. The real question loomed larger than before. Would she gather enough strength to properly wield the pen that could redefine her future? Claire took a deep breath, the air in the diner feeling heavier than ever. She could sense the weight of those pivotal words echoing within her. The commitment Steve had laid out was not just about serving coffee or creating art. It demanded a deeper dive into herself, a confrontation with her limitations and fears. Could she really transform her everyday struggles into something artistically poignant? It felt like the first step into an uncharted ocean where she would either sink or swim. The remainder of her shift passed in a blur, each clink of dishes and shuffling of feet becoming a rhythm she found herself oddly attuned to. The clamor of voices and laughter around her felt like a backdrop for a canvas, each story an individual brushstroke waiting for her to apply color. Each customer, an unsung character in the narrative waiting to unfold. Yet as her boss called out her name to help with a rush at the counter, she felt an uneasiness settle in. Amid the hustle and bustle, her mind began to race. What if she failed? What if her attempts to intertwine her art with her daily life simply fell flat? She imagined the disappointment not just from Steve, but also from herself. After all this time spent hiding behind hesitation, would she simply revert back into avoidance? After the rush quieted down, Claire was able to steal a moment in the break room. She sank into a chair, running her fingers over the small notebook she kept tucked away in her apron pocket. It had become a vital companion, a means through which she could sketch ideas, thoughts, and the strange little observations that flitted past her during her shifts. Opening it, her heart raced at the sight of familiar scribbles, fragments of conversations, and fleeting impressions. She turned to a blank page and stared, the emptiness confronting her. This wasn't just a notebook. It was a mirror reflecting her internal fight, the tension between her responsibilities and her passions. "No more false starts," she whispered under her breath, a small vow swelling inside her. Each word felt like a stepping stone, guiding her closer toward taking a risk, toward expressing herself fully. She flipped to the last note, capturing a recent interaction with a regular, a woman who often came in to nurse her coffee while diving deep into a novel. "Why do you read?" Claire had once asked her. "Because stories save me," the woman had replied, eyes glimmering. "They transform my mundane reality into something magical." Could the same be true for her? Claire chewed on her pen as tantalizing possibilities danced in her mind. She could write not just about the diner but about herself, raw and open. The lure of honesty pulled at her, igniting a surge of courage. But with that courage came a weight. Could she muster the bravery to expose her vulnerabilities on true display? Pushing away from the table, she resolved to explore this path. With meticulous intent, she began jotting down snippets. The way the morning light hit the diner's cracked vinyl booths, the rich aroma of coffee permeating the air, each customer and their unguarded moments. Each note became a vessel for connection, a glimmer of humanity she could fuse into her art. As the shift continued, clad in the hard exterior of her waitress persona, she felt the stirrings of a deeper identity, a storyteller awakening from within. Yet the thought lingering on the edge of her mind was haunting. What if her commitment came with sacrifices she wasn't yet prepared to make? The diner was her comfort zone, yet pushing past that limit felt perilously thrilling. By the end of her shift, exhaustion clung heavily to her, but so did a new determination, the kind that pushed through fear, transforming it into inspiration. She had discovered something vital. Her surroundings were not merely banal backdrops, but vibrant sources of endless narratives. As she clocked out, Claire caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection of the diner's glass doors. There was something different about the way she stood, the way her shoulders held a newfound lightness, the way her chin lifted just a fraction higher. She no longer felt entangled in a web of uncertainty, but rather poised on the threshold of transformation. What lay ahead was a narrative waiting to be penned, one rich with both complexity and creativity. But she knew that this journey was not without its own complexities, challenges, and potential losses. As she stepped into the cool evening air, one question looped through her thoughts. Could she truly brave the emotional depths required to unveil her soul's story? The answer was irrelevant. What mattered now was the next step. Would she engage directly with those stories, even the painful ones, that could fuel this new artistic endeavor? With anticipation swelling in her chest, Claire felt both exhilaration and terror, leading her forward. The dawn of her emotional winter was close, and what awaited was yet unfathomable. What would it take for her to embrace those shadows? And in doing so, what brilliant art might erupt from the ashes? The brisk evening air filled Claire's lungs as she stepped outside the diner, a blend of caffeine and anticipation coursing through her veins. Each step seemed to echo her resolve, a physical manifestation of the burgeoning writer within. Tonight, she had a plan, a tapestry of her thoughts waiting to be woven into something greater. Claire ambled toward her favorite spot, a small park bench that overlooked an unkempt stretch of grass, the stars glistening overhead like tiny, watchful eyes. Pulling her notebook out from her canvas bag, she opened to the fresh, blank pages with a mixture of trepidation and eagerness. The world around her grew quiet, and the din of the diner faded, leaving her alone with her thoughts, her fears. She could feel the whisper of creativity beckoning her, but the weight of her own expectations pressed down. She glanced down at the page, the emptiness almost mocking in its intensity. Where to begin? Yet as she sat there, memories flooded her mind. Faces, conversations, moments that felt rich with potential. The woman who read novels, lost in her stories. The elderly gentleman with the overstuffed briefcase, who always ordered the same burnt toast. All these fleeting characters danced through her imagination, making up a colorful collage of life that deserved to be explored. What if I wrote about a moment that changed everything? She mused aloud, a habit she had picked up in quiet moments, talking to the universe like an old friend. Inspiration struck when her gaze fell upon a crumpled napkin that had been left behind on the table. It was hastily scrawled with the words, "Help," in frantic letters, a vivid snapshot of someone's urgent plea. Who wrote it? What had driven them to abandon such a cry? A deeply unsettling curiosity twisted in her gut, urging her to give voice to that fragment of a story, to find the narrative beyond the ink. Determined, she began to write not just about the diner, but about the myriad ways people encountered their own darkness, the stories hidden within their glances and laughter, the struggles they masked behind forced smiles. Each word became a cathartic release, a delve into vulnerability that scared, yet excited her like a first leap into the cold ocean. But beneath the excitement lurked doubt. Was her own pain worthy of being shared? Would her own struggles matter in this intricate web of human experience? She recalled moments of uncertainty, like the time she had been too afraid to share her sketches, afraid of being deemed too mediocre. What if I'm just as mediocre as I feared? The question echoed in her mind, but she refused to let it drown her burgeoning courage. Instead, Claire adjusted her posture, determination hardening her resolve. She remembered Steve's words from the diner, each syllable glowing with promise. Art is born in honesty. Slowly she began transcribing her memories intertwined with those of the people around her. But just as she was getting lost in the rhythm of her pen, a rustling sound broke her concentration. A figure approached from the shadows, a man wearing a frayed jacket, his attire a patchwork of stories waiting to be told. Claire felt a surge of anxiety. This was not the first time she had been confronted by an unexpected connection in her solitude. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, his voice tentative yet warm, laced with a hint of vulnerability. Her instinct was to decline. Her conversational cocoon felt fragile and new, but she found herself nodding. As he settled beside her, Claire struggled to maintain her composure. Would he recognize the artist she was trying to become? The thought sparked a wave of self-doubt, yet curiosity gripped her. Perhaps he would reveal more than just a passing story. Perhaps he would help her confront her own. "Do you ever feel like you're hiding?" he asked, looking up at the stars with an intensity that compelled her to respond with honesty. "All the time," Claire admitted, the weight of her admission swirling in the night air. As he turned to her, something flickered in his eyes, a shared recognition of the shadows they both carried. What if here was an unexpected mentor, a kindred spirit ready to walk alongside her through the depths she sought to illuminate? With the possibility hanging between them, Claire pondered if this moment might just be the catalyst for the story she had been yearning to write. She realized the journey was no longer about alone, but rather about connection, confrontation, and ultimately, creation. Could this stranger become part of her narrative, a pivotal influence pushing her deeper into the vulnerability she craved to explore? With that thought, Claire's heart raced. She had just scraped the surface of a dense complexity awaiting her. What depths might their conversation reveal? Would she find the courage to untangle not only her own stories, but the profound ones coursing through him? The man shifted on the bench, the remnants of hesitation visible in his posture. Claire felt a fleeting sense of kinship arise between them. Two souls nestled in the comfort of night, yet scrutinized by the light of their unspoken thoughts. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, her heart pulsating softly as she contemplated the revelation that lay ahead. "I mean," he continued, his voice breaking the quiet as though puncturing a balloon filled with tension, "we all put on masks, don't we? Make it look easy while struggling underneath the surface." His eyes bore into hers, urging her to acknowledge her inner turmoil. "What if we don't?" Claire countered, her tone caught somewhere between defiance and intrigue. "What if the struggle is all I am?" He chuckled softly, a sound laced with understanding and sadness. "If you think that, then you're not looking deep enough. Even in darkness there's potential for growth, you know?" Claire's mind whirled, her thoughts ricocheting between his words and her memories. How many times had she layered her own vulnerabilities under a guise of nonchalance? How many timid moments had she missed in the name of self-preservation? He had stepped into her orbit, a brief collision of two otherwise separate paths, and his words echoed the lingering doubts she fought against each day. "Why do you say that?" she breathed, the yearning for answers unclenching her facade even more. "Because," he said, shifting slightly closer, "I've been there too. It's painfully human." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "I lived for a long time believing that my story isn't worth sharing. Then one day, I saw someone I admired struggle, and it clicked for me. Vulnerability is the bridge. It connects us." His sincerity disarmed her. Claire could feel the thread of their connection strengthening, weaving a fabric rich with mutual understanding. The art within her, craving honesty, yearning for expression, fed on authentic moments like this. She realized that perhaps it was less about the boundaries she'd erected, and more about the intersections between lives, where tales of hardship transformed into shared wisdom. "Would you share your story with me?" she asked, a surge of courage igniting a flame within. In that moment, she knew she was no longer merely an observer. She was an adventurer willing to plunge headfirst into the uncharted territory of human experience. He glanced away, his gaze momentarily lost in the sweeping expanse of stars, a deep contemplation filling the space around them. "It's not easy," he finally admitted, "but nothing worth sharing ever is, right?" "Yes, precisely," Claire effused, her excitement swelling within. Her heart drummed a rhythmic encouragement as she pulled her notebook closer, ready to pen down the revelations that would come forth. "I want to document this. What you say, your story. Tell me about your journey. What darkness did you face?" He sighed, the weight of the words almost visible, forming a palpable fog between them. "It's about the struggle to find worth in my own existence. There's a part of me that's always felt like an outsider." His voice wavered slightly, raw honesty weaving through every syllable. "Art was my refuge, yet every time I put pen to paper, I choked on the notion of being enough." Each word he spoke unraveled a knot deep within her, connecting her experience to his. Claire felt the world outside recede, leaving only the two of them, a shared moment teetering on the edge of something profound. As she moved to write what he shared, the weight on her own heart began to lighten, exposing the infinite possibility that lay in their intertwining stories. "What do you seek?" Claire asked, the depth of her curiosity mingling with her hope. "What if you were to find that your voice did matter?" "Then perhaps," he whispered, his gaze piercing, "I would finally feel free to create without shackles weighing me down." Claire paused, fingers hovering above the page, a realizational spark igniting within her. The stories written on napkins and echoed in lonely benches held the power to reflect souls trapped in silence. She understood now. She was not merely documenting narratives. She was unearthing humanity's collective identity, reaching deeper into herself even as she illuminated others' shadows. With the soft rustle of the night enveloping them, Claire contemplated her own fears. Was she ready to confront her insecurities magnificently? The stranger had ignited a fervor within her. Could she emerge from this darkness transformed? Could shared vulnerability rewrite her narrative from self-doubt to self-affirmation? As the stars shone against an emerging dawn, Claire felt her resolve deepen. This moment was a catalyst. It suggested that the very act of connection could challenge and reshape destinies. Would she harness their shared experience to break down her walls and pen the story she was afraid to tell? Her thoughts lingered on the future, a horizon filled with potential. Each word he spoke felt like a stepping stone, leading her toward self-discovery and an embrace of her artistry's raw authenticity. The man next to her, a stranger turned confidant, might just be the key to unlocking the deepest parts of who she was meant to become. But would she dare leap forward, risking vulnerability in a world that often shunned it? Would confronting the shadows lead to a luminous narrative, or would it unveil deeper fears she wasn't prepared to face? Time felt suspended, an echo of the untold tales waiting to rise. Claire sensed the moment was transforming her, urging her to write her own help into the universe, a call with the potential to reverberate through anyone listening, including herself. Claire's heart raced as she walked away from the diner the next day, clutching her notebook to her chest like a treasured artifact. A week had passed since her pivotal conversation with Mr. Thompson and the stranger at the park. It was a week marked by sleepless nights spent sketching and writing, a transformative experience that shook her foundations and opened her eyes to possibilities she never believed could be hers. Today, she held the weight of a decision within her grasp, to showcase her work at the local gallery. But it was more than just a chance to display her art. It was a declaration of her newfound identity. The fears she had previously tangled with had begun to unravel, revealing bright threads of ambition and resilience. With every stroke of her brush over canvas the night before, Claire had experienced a stirring within her soul. Those once muted aspirations pulsated with life, as vibrant as the colors splashed across her palette. As she stood in front of the gallery's entrance, butterflies flittered within her stomach. But they felt different now, less like fear, and more like the exhilaration of a new journey. After collecting herself, she stepped inside and was enveloped by the warm, ambient glow of the exhibit. Her pieces adorned the walls, representing fragments of herself intertwined with the lives of her diner customers. Each artwork told a story, the joy and sorrow she had witnessed, and the transformation of her identity captured through layers of paint and emotion. As guests milled about, sipping wine and engaging in hushed conversations, Claire noticed Mr. Thompson standing confidently across the room, his eyes gleaming with approval. His presence offered an anchor, and she felt the depth of his faith in her, an invitation for more than mere artistic presentation. It was a chance to voice the stories woven through her heart. As the clock struck 7, Claire gathered herself, glancing into the growing crowd. She approached the microphone, a knot of anticipation tightening in her chest. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady though laced with vulnerability. "These pieces represent not just art, but the stories of people like you and me. All of us battling shadows and embracing moments of triumph." With each word, Claire's confidence soared. Creating art used to feel like an impossible dream, but I learned that vulnerability is our most powerful ally. It connects us. As she spoke, she gestured toward her paintings, her hands eloquent on their own. "Each canvas reflects the voices I've heard, the cries for help hiding beneath smiles, the connections that we often overlook, and the beauty in just being human." The audience shifted, drawn closer. Claire continued, "This journey isn't just mine, it is ours. I hope that by sharing these stories we can each cultivate courage to pursue what lies within us, buried beneath life's chaos." The reactions were immediate. Soft murmurs of agreement, nods of appreciation, Glances exchanged as people connected with her words. Her heart soared. This was the culmination of her growth, a celebration of art and authenticity in all its magnificent complexities. As people approached her, compliments flooded in. "Your work is powerful," a fellow artist proclaimed, eyes sparkling. "I've never seen anything that resonates quite like this," another guest echoed, visibly moved. Every compliment was an affirmation. Claire felt anchored in her purpose, her identity as an artist no longer a question, but a solid foundation she would continue to build upon. No longer just Claire the waitress, she was Claire the artist, connecting deeper truths through her creativity. By the end of the night, Claire found herself wrapped in a warm embrace of accolades, discussions, and newfound friendships. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, pride etched on his face. "Claire, you've proven that vulnerability can be your strongest asset. You've found your voice." The weight of those words rested in her chest like a warm ember, igniting a passion that transcended mere expression. Claire stepped out onto the gallery's patio, breathing in the cool night air, her thoughts swirling. She had conquered her doubts, faced her fears, and established herself as not only a talented artist, but an advocate for personal truth. The once stifled spark within her had ignited into an undeniable flame, one that would guide her forward. Life wouldn't be free of challenges, but now she embraced the complexity of her narrative, the weavings of fear and aspiration, vulnerability and expression braided into a life where she could finally say, "I am here, I am enough, and I will continue to create." As she stepped away from the gallery that night, she knew this was just the beginning. The canvas of her life was vast, and she was finally ready to paint it with bold strokes filled with resilience, authenticity, and boundless creativity. Now, dear friends, you've witnessed a true transformation, from self-doubt to artistic fulfillment. If you want to see more powerful stories of personal growth just like Claire's, you need to subscribe now to our channel. Don't miss out on these exclusive emotional journeys that will inspire you every day. And if this story resonated with you, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the positivity. We want to hear your thoughts. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Claire's incredible journey. Lastly, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait, even one more second.